You have cleaned that toilet again this month, maybe twice, maybe more. There is a bottle for it under your sink right now, maybe 2, maybe 3. And you have knelt down on that cold, hard floor with a brush in your hand and scrubbed at the brown ring along the waterline until your shoulder ached. And it is still there. It is there this very moment, while you sit and listen to me. You can see it without even getting up. And maybe I think you know what I am going to say. Maybe you have quietly started keeping the lid down, or you have stopped letting a guest use that little washroom off the hall because you are ashamed of a mark you cannot scrub away, no matter how hard you work at it. So let me say this to you plainly right at the start. That stain is not your fault. You did not clean it wrong. You did not leave it too long. You were handed a brush and a bottle to fight something that no brush and no bottle on this earth can ever win against. And the people who sold you that bottle, somewhere up the line, knew it. My name is Maya Sato. I grew up in the mountains of Nagano in an old wooden farmhouse, raised mostly by my grandmother, my Oba-chan, who ran that whole house on what the land and the kitchen gave her and wasted nothing. I have kept a home myself for the better part of 50 years now, and in all that time, I have not once bought a bottle of toilet cleaner. Not one, not ever. And the bowls in my house are white the way they were the day they were set in place, with no ring, no rust, no brown creeping up the sides. I clean them properly, maybe twice a year. Twice. Not twice a week, the way I am told so many people feel they must. And it costs me almost nothing, a few coins of powder to carry me right through the year. So sit with me a while. Let that bottle stay under the sink. I am going to show you something better. Here is what I am going to do for you today. First, I am going to tell you what that stain truly is, because it is lying to you about what it even is, and once you see that, everything changes. Then I am going to show you the one thing my Oba-chan kept for it, the thing Japanese homes have leaned on for generations, that costs a few coins and sits on a shelf in your hardware store right now, under a plain name that most people walk straight past. I will show you exactly how to use it, step by step, slowly, so you can go and do it this very week. And I am going to be honest with you about what it does well and what it does not, because I will not stand here and make a liar of myself in your bathroom. But stay with me to the end, because the last part, the part about who makes money keeping you down on your knees with a brush, that is the part the makers would truly rather you never heard. There is even one honest little exception I will tell you about. A thing sitting on a shelf this very minute that gives the whole game away, if you only know to look for it. Stay for that. So, the first thing you must understand, before anything else will make sense, is that the stain in your bowl is lying to you about what it is. You look at that brown ring, and your mind says one word: dirty, filth, something that did not get cleaned, something you let happen. And that word brings shame with it, and the shame is what sends you back to the shop for a stronger bottle. That is the whole machine, right there. It runs on one wrong idea, and it runs beautifully. But it is not dirt. I need you to truly hear that. You cannot scrub it away, because it was never sitting on top of the porcelain, the way mud sits on a boot. It is mineral. It is the water itself, leaving a little piece of itself behind, day after day, year after year, until it has grown a thin shell of stone right onto the glaze of your bowl. There are 3 kinds of it mostly, and it helps to know which one you are looking at. The chalky white, the gray crust, that is the hardness in your water, the very same lime that furs up the inside of your kettle until it rattles. The rusty brown, that is iron, coming up out of your pipes or your well, meeting the air and turning the color of an old nail left out in the rain. And the dark ring, the near black one that some poor souls fight for years and never win. That is manganese, another mineral riding along in certain water. 3 colors, 3 minerals, but all 3 the same in the way that matters most. They are stone, locked hard onto the glaze, and you cannot scrub stone off with a brush. You can only wear out your arm trying, and here is the cruel turn, the part nobody tells you. While you scrub, you are scratching the glaze. That hard, glassy finish is smooth as ice when it is new, and every hard scrubbing, every gritty powder, every stiff brush grinds tiny scratches into it. You cannot see them with your eye, but each one is a fresh little crack for the next bit of mineral to catch and hold. So the harder you scrub, the rougher the surface gets, and the rougher it gets, the faster the stain comes back, and the deeper it sits the next time. You think you are cleaning. You are laying the foundation for the next stain. That is why it always seems to come back worse. It is coming back worse. So the cure was never a stronger arm, and it was never a stronger bottle. The cure is the right thing dissolved in a little water that takes that thin shell of stone and quietly turns it into something soft, something loose, something the plain water can simply carry away down the drain. Now let me tell you what that right thing is. In my kitchen, the everyday one, the one I reach for first, is something Japanese homes keep as a matter of course. We call it quensan. In English, it is citric acid. It is a fine white powder, and it is nothing exotic at all. It is the sour you taste in a lemon, dried and made into a powder you can keep in a jar. You will find it at the pharmacy, at the hardware store, at the supermarket, sometimes sold for cleaning and sometimes for canning and cooking. A bag of it costs very little, and it lasts a long, long while. And here is the humble truth of it. The idea is far older than the powder. My Oba-chan had no neat jar of quensan on her shelf. What she had was vinegar, and the sour peel of a yuzu, and the brine from the pickle crock. And when the kettle furred up white inside, or the basin grew a ring, she did not scrub at it like it was dirt. She knew it was scale, mineral, and she dissolved it with something sour and waited and let it go soft and rinsed it away. That is the whole of it. The powder we use today is only that same old idea, made cheaper and stronger and tidier. Sour dissolves scale. That is what she taught me, standing at the cold stone sink with the mountain water running over her hands. And that is what I am handing to you now. So here is how you do it. And I am going to go slowly, because the slowness is the secret. For the toilet bowl, the very first thing, and almost everyone misses this, is to get the water down off the stain, so the powder works on it straight and is not watered down weak. Reach down low behind the bowl and turn that little valve to shut the water off. Then flush the one time. The bowl drains down low and does not fill back up. Now you can see your enemy bare. Stir 2 or 3 good spoonfuls of the quensan into a cup or 2 of warm, not boiling, just warm, water until it is well dissolved with no grit sitting on the bottom. The warm water wakes it up and helps it work. Pour it carefully all along the ring, all the way around, and onto any place the stain has reached. Get it on every bit, and then, this is the part everybody wants to cheat on, and it is the one part that matters most of all. You walk away, 20 minutes, half an hour. Go and hang the wash. Go and put the kettle on. Go and sit down. Do not scrub. I mean that with my whole heart. The work is being done for you, quietly, by the chemistry, and your scrubbing only undoes its patience and scratches the glaze besides. Then come back, turn the valve on again, and flush it through twice, and you will see what years of staring at that ring could never show you. Clean porcelain. Let me tell you simply why it works. Because it is a tidy bit of business, and I have always liked a tidy thing. That shell of mineral, the lime, the rust, is locked up hard, holding tight to the glaze, and it will not dissolve in plain water no matter how long it sits there. The acid takes hold of it and turns it into a different thing entirely. A loose thing, a thing that does dissolve in water, that no longer clings to anything at all. So the rust does not get scrubbed off. It stops being rust. The lime stops being lime, and what is left behind will not hold to the glaze. So the plain water simply carries it down and away. And here is the part the bottle makers would just as soon you never learned. The acid goes after the mineral, and it leaves the hard glaze alone. So you finish with a surface as smooth and whole as the day it came out of the kiln, where the scouring powders scratch and pit and leave it rough and hungry. For the next stain, this leaves it slick as new, with nothing for the next bit of mineral to grab onto, which means the more you tend the bowl this gentle way, the less it stains the next time. You are not fighting the same losing battle over and over, giving up a little ground every pass. You are leaving it better than you found it, every single time. Now, the Quensan, the citric, will handle most of what an ordinary home throws at it. The white scale, the hard water ring, the lighter rust. But I am going to be honest with you because honesty is the whole of this little channel. For the deep stuff, the brown iron stain that has been baking into an old bowl for 30 years, the near-black manganese that some of you fight in old houses on deep wells, the citric is sometimes not strong enough on its own. For that, there is a stronger cousin. And I am not going to dress it up as something my Obachan kept in a tin, because it was not. And I will not tell you a pretty thing that is not true. It is a hardware store powder, and you ought to know it plainly for what it is. It is called oxalic acid. In the shops it goes by humbler names: wood bleach, wood brightener, rust remover crystals. It is the very same thing under every one of those names, and it is what farmers have long used to take the rust off their iron, and what folk have used to lift rust stains for a great while. It works on exactly the same principle as the Quensan. It does not pry the stone off the way a chisel would. It turns the stone into something that is no longer stone, but it is stronger, and a stronger thing asks for more care. And I will give you that care in full when we come to the safety. So do not you skip that part. You use it the very same way. Water down, low. Couple of spoonfuls dissolved in warm water, poured on, left to sit. No scrubbing, then flushed through twice. And on a stain that 2 whole years of bottles could not move, you will watch decades of it let go in half an hour, with not one bristle of a brush touching it. People hardly believe it the first time. They rarely do. So if you remember nothing else from me today, remember the 4 small things that almost everyone gets wrong. Lower the water, so the powder is not watered down weak. Dissolve it in warm water, not cold. Leave it be. Give it the full half hour and do not touch it. And do not scrub. The patience is the method. The scrubbing is the very thing that has been failing you all along. And once you have seen it work in the bowl, you will start to see that same stone everywhere. And the same cure works on all of it. The rust ring in the sink. Wet a cloth in the solution. Lay it over the rust. Give it 20 minutes. Wipe it away. The gray scale line in the bathtub. Brush it along. Let it wait. Rinse. And it wipes off soft where before it would not budge for anything. The grout gone dark with iron. Work a little down into the line with an old toothbrush. 10 minutes, rinse, and the grout comes back to its own true color. The kettle furred up white inside. A spoon of citric. Fill it with hot water. Leave it an hour, and the scale is simply gone. The shower head with half its little holes crusted shut. Unscrew it, sit it in a bowl of warm water with a good spoon of citric overnight. And in the morning, the spray runs clean and full again. It is one idea, doing a dozen jobs for a few coins. Now I can hear the questions already because my own family asks them. What if my water is very hard? Then you will simply do this a little more often and lean on the citric for the regular upkeep, so it never builds into a real stain at all. What if I live in an apartment and cannot get at some valve behind the bowl? You can still bale or sponge the water down low by hand. It is less tidy, but it works just the same. What if I cannot find the oxalic, the wood bleach? Then start with the citric, which is everywhere, and you will be surprised how far it carries you. And here is the rhythm I keep, and I will give it to you as a gift. Once at the turn of spring, when I open the whole house up, and once again in the autumn, I do the proper treatment, down to bare, clean porcelain. And then, through the rest of the year, the citric does the light work. Twice a year, half an hour each time, a few coins of powder to see me through. That is the whole of it, and it is a world away from a cabinet full of bottles you buy and buy and buy. Let me tell you something I watched with my own 2 eyes, so you do not take this for an old woman simply being fond of the old ways. There was a young woman near us, newly married, just moved into a tired little flat, easily 50 years old, with water so hard it left a white skin on everything. She had a bowl with a brown ring set so deep that she had given up on it entirely. She kept the lid down when anyone came by. She told me, when she finally got around to telling me, that she had spent more than she wanted to say out loud on bottles and tablets and a special stiff brush over the better part of 2 years, and not one bit of it had moved that ring so much as a shade. So I mixed her a cup of the powder in warm water right there at her own little sink. We let the water down in the bowl and poured it in. And then I made her do the hardest part of all. We sat down, and we drank a cup of tea, and we did nothing, for half an hour. She kept popping up to go and look, and I kept telling her to sit back down and let it be. And when we finally flushed it through, that ring was gone. 50 years in that flat, 2 years of her on her knees, gone, and not one bristle of a brush had touched it. When that young woman finally believed her own eyes, the very next thing out of her mouth was, "Why did nobody ever tell me this?" And that, I think, is exactly the right question to be asking. So let me answer it. Let me tell you who profits when nobody tells you. You may be sitting there thinking, if this is so cheap and works so well and is so very old, then why on earth is it not on the shelf in the bright bottle with all the rest? Why did my own mother never teach me? I will tell you, and I will tell you fair, because I do not hold with crying conspiracy at every turn. No one in a back room ever banned this powder. It is sold right out in the open, this very day. What happened to it is, in its own quiet way, worse than a conspiracy. Worse because it needed no one at all to plan it. Think it through with me, plain. A powder that clears your stain for a whole year, that you buy once and then forget you even own. There is no fortune to be made in that, none. But a bottle that works for 3 weeks and then asks to be bought all over again and again and again after that. 1 bottle for the bowl, another for the tub, a tablet that drops in the tank, a foam for the rust in the sink. Now that is a river of money, and a river that never once runs dry. And not because it cleans any better, because it cleans briefly. The whole trade is built not around solving your trouble, but around your trouble coming back, faithful, on a schedule you could mark on a calendar. Nobody had to sit at a table and decide to bury the old powder. The bright bottles simply had money behind them, and the plain powder had none. Money to buy the shelf at eye level, where your hand falls first. Money to buy the advertisement that plays while you eat your supper. Money to buy a small room in your mind, so that when you think of the word stain, the very next thing you think of is which bottle. And the plain powder had no one at all to speak up for it, because no soul ever grew rich selling a thing that lasts. So the bottles grew louder and the grandmothers grew quieter. And inside a single generation, the knowing simply slipped out of the houses where it had lived for as long as anyone could remember. And I will give you that one honest exception now, because a debt of credit ought to be paid where it is owed. There is a scouring powder sold in a can for your pots and pans, that prints oxalic acid right there on its own label as the very thing that does the work, so it never quite vanished off the earth. But even there, they sell it to you as a special powder, just for your cookware, and never once think to mention that it is the same cure sitting right there for your bowl, your tub, your sink, your grout lines. The knowledge was kept small and kept quiet, and then sold back to you a spoonful at a time, at many times what it is honestly worth. Now, before we are through, I am going to keep my promise and tell you honestly what this does and what it does not, because a claim that falls apart under your own eyes only makes a liar of the one who made it. So here is the honest half. Will the stain stay gone forever, all on its own, with nothing ever asked of you again? No. And do not you trust anybody who stands there and tells you that it will. That stain came out of your water, out of the iron and the lime your water carries into that bowl every single day, without resting. And as long as that water keeps running, it will, slow and patient, begin to leave a little of itself behind again. That is not the powder failing you. That is water being water, and there is no powder on this green earth that changes what water is. But the difference is everything, so hear it. With the bottles, you fight a hard, built-up stain every week, forever, losing ground the whole time. With this, you clear it down to bare porcelain one time, and then a small, easy treatment just twice a year keeps it from ever building into a real stain at all. That is not forever and free, and never think of it again, because nothing in this life is. But it is about as near to it as an honest woman can rightly promise you. And I will tell you plainly what it is not for as well. It is not for a bowl that is simply dirty and wants an ordinary clean. That is a different, easier job. And it is not for mold, the black speckled kind that comes creeping back every rainy season, because that is not a mineral at all. That is a damp problem, and we will talk about damp another day. This is for mineral, for stone. That is its work, and it does it well, and we should not ask it to be more than it is. Now the safety, and I will give it to you, the way I would give it to my own grown daughter, standing in my kitchen, hiding nothing from her. Both of these are acids, and the citric mild, the oxalic stronger. So treat them with plain, ordinary respect. Wear your rubber gloves, because the acid will sting and dry your skin if you let it. Open a window or run the fan, not because it chokes you, for it does not, but because moving air is simply good sense whenever you clean. And here is the one I will say the very loudest, so write it down. You never, ever mix these, or any acid or any cleaner at all, with bleach, or with anything that has got bleach in it. Acid and chlorine bleach together make a poison gas that has truly sent people to the hospital from small rooms, and a bathroom is a small room. So no mixing, not these two, not any two cleaners together, the store bottles most of all. One thing rinsed well, and then the next with the air moving. Keep the powder up high, plainly labeled, well out of the reach of children and pets. And the oxalic especially, because it is more poisonous than the citric. It is, in a small way, the very thing that makes a rhubarb leaf unsafe to eat. And a child does not know that. So you must know it for them. And one more, for those of you with beautiful stone in the house. Do not use either acid on natural marble, or travertine, or limestone, around the sink or on the floor, because acid eats right into stone and will dull it for good. When you are in any doubt at all, test a hidden corner first, and rinse everything well when you are done. Handle it with that much plain care, and it is gentler to live with than the very bleach already sitting under your sink. So here's what I would ask of you. This week, not someday, this week, go and try it. Find a hardware store, a paint shop, a pharmacy, and ask for citric acid. And if you want the stronger one for a truly deep old stain, ask for oxalic acid or wood bleach or rust remover crystals, which are all the very same powder. Spend the few coins. Then take the worst stained thing in your whole house, the one you keep the lid down on, the one you shut the door on when company comes, and do with it exactly as I have told you here. Lower the water, dissolve the powder in warm water, pour it on. Wait, do not scrub, flush it through twice, and then come back and tell me down below where you live and how old your house is and how hard your water runs, because the older the house and the harder the water, the worse the stain. And those are the cases I would dearly love to see this tried on. And tell me true, even if it should let you down. I would far rather know the truth than be flattered. I read every single one, and the stories you send back are the very reason I keep on doing this. And if it works for you, and I do believe that it will, then do one more thing for me. Teach it to one young person who does not know it. A daughter, a son, a young neighbor just now setting up a first home, with a cabinet already filling up with bottles they will never need. Because that is exactly how this knowledge stayed alive for so long. Not in any book, but in one pair of hands passing it down to the next. It very nearly died out altogether in our own time. You can be the one who hands it on, instead of the one it stopped with, next time. Since today we spoke of mineral and water and damp, I am going to show you how my Obachan kept the closets and the cupboards dry all the way through Suyu, the long, rainy season, when the air itself turns to water and everything in the house wants to grow mold. No machine, no bottle, just a few quiet old things, set in the right place at the right time. Until then, waste nothing. Take care of your home, and it will take good care of you. I will see you next time.